The House Committee on Natural Resources, Environment, Tourism, and Outdoor Recreation will come to order. Will the clerk please take the attendance?
Chair Pohutsky.
Present.
Representatives Hill, Shannon,
Present.
Arbit,
Present.
McFall,
Here.
Pies,
Present.
Martin,
Here.
Preston, Shriver.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Minority Vice Chair Martin moves to approve the minutes from our previous meeting on March 9th. Hearing no objection, the minutes are approved. So today we have Dan Moylanen, the Executive Director, and Dr. Gerald Miller, the President of the Michigan Association of Conservation Districts. I'd like to thank you both for being here. And if you want to head up to the table, the floor is yours.
Giving us an opportunity to present before your committee. I'm Jerry Miller. I'm board chair and of the Kent Conservation District, and as indicated, I'm also the president of the State Association of Conservation Districts. And as you'll hear in our presentation, we have 75 districts across the state of Michigan, but as you know, there are 83 counties, and our districts cover all 83 counties in the state of Michigan. With us, I do want to introduce Mr. Gary Lee. Gary Lee, here to my right, is the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service State Conservation. So he's one of our primary partners, and we'll talk about our partnership with USDA NRCS in our presentation. So again, I'll introduce my colleague and executive director of the Michigan Association of Conservation Districts.
Great, thank you, Jerry. And as Jerry said, my name is Dan Moylanen, and I serve as executive director of MACD, but I also serve locally on my board in Genesee Conservation District in the city of Flint. So I definitely wear both hats here at the State Association as well as working in the local role. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about the work that we do as conservation districts. But before we do that, a little bit about the Michigan Association of Conservation Districts. We are a 501c3 non-for-profit membership organization, as Jerry mentioned, that serves all 75 of Michigan's conservation districts. And our mission is to strengthen conservation districts through leadership, information, and representation at the state level. And we do this by providing outreach and advocacy, educational programming, and business services that help conservation districts thrive. And we really want to note that the heart of everything that we do is about promoting healthy soil, which again means healthy water, which means we produce healthy food, we have healthy people in our society, and then that means we have a healthy state. So what are conservation districts? So we are your local providers of natural resources management services. Much like your local fire, police, health, or school services, we are local units of government of the state that is authorized under I believe it was the Environmental Law of 1994, but originally we were founded in 1937 as a product of the Dust Bowl, which we'll get into in a little bit. But we're also your neighbors, and so we help fellow Michiganders conserve their lands and waterways so our environment can be cleaner, healthier, economically stronger place to live, and to work and grow for our community. So in the 1930s, there was this thing called the Dust Bowl, which most folks are at least a little bit familiar with, and the issue was that you had a lot of farmers that were engaged in heavy tillage, and combined with a severe drought, this really kind of created a perfect storm. That led to severe soil erosion from high winds and other things. So, these images, you can kind of see that, in Kansas in particular, and some of our Great Plains states, the Dust Bowl was devastating. It was over $20 billion in today's dollars in terms of estimated economic damages. And so the thing that we always want to draw back on this history is that, again, when we get away from some of these things that happened a few generations ago, we tend to forget the lessons that we learned then. So it's just a reminder that, conservation is important because with the rate of droughts and other things and other issues that are facing us, we want to do our best to help prevent these measures these extreme events from happening. So our guiding philosophy is that decisions on conservation issues really should be made at the local level by local people with technical assistance provided by government affiliate organizations. So that would be our districts directly or our partners at the Natural Resource Conservation Service. And all of our programming is voluntary and non-regulatory. So because of that, it's everything in terms of our delivery system is built on this foundation of trust between conservation district staff and then farmers, landowners, and producers. So to this end, we work very closely with local, state, and federal organizations to roll out programs that directly assist and impact environmental quality of local communities in our beautiful peninsulas. And this fact, I think, is really important to understand because it's really sort of the linchpin of our work, is that 72% of all land in Michigan is privately owned. And without conservation districts, achieving climate or other natural resource concern conservation goals would be extremely difficult. We are the ones that have the relationships with local landowners, and I think that's really the critical point of our conservation delivery service. So I've heard the internet's a little wonky today, so maybe we'll see if this works or not, but we had a short clip, and if it doesn't load right away, we'll just move on. All right, we'll move on then. So a bit about some of our core and historic partners. We partner very closely with USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service. And in the 30s, when FDR really created the Soil Conservation Service, which would later become the NRCS, they realized really quickly that they were having difficulty reaching farmers and landowners on the land. So they realized they needed the local component to help deliver the services because of that foundation of trust. And to this day, we work very closely with NRCS delivering Farm Bill programming as well as other conservation-related programs. We work very closely with Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. They've been one of our primary historic partners as well. Through the conservation program through the Environmental Stewardship Division, we work very closely, and MDARD does provide support to our districts in the form of capacity building and a little bit of sort of oversight to make sure that we're adhering to things like Open Meetings Act and other and critical state laws. We partner closely with Conservation District Employees of Michigan. That's our employees side association who represent district staff. And then, of course, we work very closely with Michigan State University, both Extension as well as their Institute of Water Research. In addition, we also work closely with USDA Farm Services Agency. Oftentimes, most of our districts are actually co-located at our USDA field offices throughout the state. So there'll be folks from Farm Service Agency, NRCS, and the local conservation district all in one place as a convenient one-stop shop for any landowners or farmers or producers. We also work closely with MDNR, where we do a variety of programs such as, in the past, the Pheasant Restoration Initiative, and I believe, I'm drawing a blank now, SISMA and the Invasive Species Program, as well as others. In addition, we do work closely with EAGLE, in particular with the 319 grant program. A number of districts are the 319 non-point source grantees who are doing work to improve water quality throughout the state. And then, of course, we partner with both county and municipal governments as well as non-governmental organizations. So this is just sort of a good graph to kind of show you how some of the funding streams function in our system and how we deliver a variety of programs. So some of these are no longer active programs, but it just kind of gives you a good scope of some of the things that we've done. So it ranges from things like household hazardous waste collection to, again, Farm Bill conservation programs, to invasive species management, to habitat restoration work. I mean, you name it. We are truly doing conservation in all areas. So just recently, MDARD released, actually a couple weeks ago, the legislative report for the fiscal year 22 operations grant. For the first time since 2009, in fiscal year 22, the state of Michigan invested $3 million into operational funding for conservation districts. So that amounted to $40,000 per district. And so many districts were really struggling to find stable funding sources for their work, and this investment was really substantial by the state. And I think one of the things in this report, which I'd be happy to forward on to the committee, is that for every dollar the state invested, we realized that 4 other dollars were leveraged from other sources. So, it's pretty impressive when you can get a 1 to 4 return on a relatively small investment in the scope of the state budget. In addition, the operations grant required districts to conduct a biannual audit and submit a board-approved budget. So 50 districts submitted a completed fiscal year audit in 2021, and 24 districts submitted a complete fiscal year 2020 audit. And then 74 districts submitted an annual budget. So I just want to note that the 75th district, which would be Macomb, is still technically exists in name, but they're not active. So we've provided some additional support, and we're trying to further get them established, with this state funding. Some other takeaways: districts were required to complete an assessment of their communities to determine local natural resource concerns, and the conservation needs assessment result basically guides the districts in identifying what are the priority issues in their communities. So the results were that with over 11,700 individuals participated statewide in this conservation needs assessment process, and the top 6 priorities statewide were water quality improvement. So that includes ground, surface water, aquatic habitat, and stormwater management. Forest management, so timber, woodland diversity, wildlife habitat, sustainability, and forest health and disease. Invasive species management, so it's aquatic, terrestrial impacts, management and treatment. Agricultural management, so farmland preservation, soil health, manure management, and erosion. Wildlife management, habitat preservation, restoration, and biodiversity. And riparian habitat improvement, so wetland habitats, stream bank restoration, and flood control. So some of the outreach that our districts did was that we held several events. In fiscal year 22, districts held 1,177 outreach events throughout the state with 69,270 people participating. So it's pretty substantial when you think about our reach collectively as 74 unique organizations throughout the state. So additionally, district directors and staff attended 1,025 county, township, or other municipal meetings, again, for further collaboration and education on priority resource concerns and conservation programs available to address them. So some things that are on our horizon. Right now, it's a really exciting time in our world, in the conservation world, because with the Inflation Reduction Act, Congress invested an additional $20 billion into the Farm Bill conservation title, which is really the main part of the Farm Bill that we work with our partners in NRCS. So as part of this, our association is working and actively advocating with the legislature to help support this system and further build it up to become more stable, to better implement these IRA dollars. So many of our districts have actually reported that with current Farm Bill volume, they're having difficulty managing that workload, let alone with this additional $20 billion investment. So, which I'll touch on here in a few slides, but it's critical when we think about this system that's been functioning sort of in a system of austerity for several years and what it can potentially do to deliver these dollars to Michigan. So with that, we're also working on pushing for conservation district staff to develop their conservation planning skills. The first step of applying for a conservation program like the Conservation Stewardship Program or the Environmental Quality Incentives Program through NRCS is to put together a conservation plan. And that's when a conservationist will go to that farmer's land, view what their needs are, and help identify and recommend practices that they could implement. And if we can have district staff that are also trained to do that, that can really help streamline and help us be better partners to our federal partners. In addition, Michigan Association of Conservation Districts was recently awarded $4.7 million by NRCS for the Climate Smart Agriculture Grant Project. And so we are establishing the Michigan Climate Smart Farm Project, which I'll mention and get into greater detail here in a few slides. But in addition, we also are working on some of our major water quality issues, such as the algal blooms in the Western Lake Erie Basin. Given the work that our districts do with non-point source pollution prevention, sediment loss is one of the key focuses that we've historically been experts on. So we're helping farmers implement those practices that are preventing that phosphorus and nitrogen runoff into our streams and ultimately into Lake Erie. In addition, we are engaging in urban agriculture and conservation programming. This current Secretary of Agriculture at USDA, as well as the President and the Chief of the Natural Resource Conservation Service have all indicated that urban agriculture is one of it's the future of our food systems. And so we as conservation districts are engaged in a variety of urban agriculture conservation programs, as well as urban and community trees. In addition, we have a statewide reforestation program that happens every year. It's currently ongoing, so if you check out your districts and your local in your local communities, they likely will have their tree sale active up until the end of the month. And annually, it's been estimated that we plant anywhere from 2 to 3 million trees through this tree sale on private land. And from my understanding, based on information that DNR has provided, that 98% of the land that's viable for replanting and reforestation is privately owned. So when we talk about carbon sequestration goals and timber industry goals and other critical natural resource needs in the context of forests, conservation districts can be critical partners in leading the way. And then lastly, Michigan Association of Conservation Districts has an active cooperative agreement with our partners at NRCS that is the Michigan Diversity, Equity, Inclusivity, and Conservation Project, where we're working actively with conservation district boards of directors, as well as conservation district staff to basically better deliver programming to underserved populations, as well as connecting with colleges and universities to expand the labor pool for conservation districts and NRCS. So we've been attending a number of career fairs and are engaging with students and trying to get the next generation of conservationists and leaders engaged in our work. So as I mentioned, we're currently advocating with the legislature regarding our appropriations. And I just wanted to show this slide to show a comparison of where Michigan is with other states in our north central region. So the blue bar represents state operational funding from state legislatures, and the green bars represent total EQIP, CSP, and CRP obligations. So those are the three flagship programs within the Farm Bill. And these dollars go directly to farmers who then hire local contractors to implement the projects with the assistance of the conservation district who provides that technical assistance. So it's often a kind of an obscure form of government. If you're not directly engaged in it, you're not necessarily familiar with the process. So that's why we're here today to talk a little bit more about that. But what I really want to emphasize is that these dollars stay in local economies and they stay in local communities, and they often turn over up to 7 times, and that is substantial. And with this investment from the IRA, you can see that Michigan, in comparison to other states, we've really lagged behind. And this is largely due to the fact that without a strong, stable conservation district at the local level, the federal government really struggles to deliver some of these programs because they just don't have the connections, they don't have the relationships, they don't have that foundation of trust that we do as districts. So our current legislative ask is that we're seeking $10 million in supplementary to the FY23 MDARD Conservation Districts Operation Grant. This would put us up in line with Wisconsin and Minnesota and some of the other states in our region, with hopes that we can better deliver these federal dollars that have already been appropriated by Congress. And our current appropriation, of course, is $3 million, which counts to $40,000 per district. And again, with the supplementary, that put us up to $173,000 per district, which would be enough to have a full-time planner, a full-time outreach person, and hopefully provide for some benefits to district staff so we can better retain our staff. Staff retention remains one of our biggest issues because even with some of the Michigan flagship conservation programs like MEEP, the Michigan Agriculture Environmental Assurance Program, we employ the staff and then we implement the program for the state. So in doing that, unfortunately, sometimes we get a lot of turnover, and it really undermines the success and efficacy of those programs because farmers, frankly, don't want to participate if they've got a new person that they're dealing with every year. So our hope is that with that support that we can help address the staff retention issue. In addition, we're seeking a total of $14 million appropriation for fiscal year 24. So as I mentioned already, I touched on the conservation planners and outreach staff. But the other thing it does with additional operational funding, is that there are a number of grants like the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative that require match dollars. This would also give districts the ability to provide matches in certain cases to leverage additional funding from federal resources as well as from private foundations. So these two maps I just want to kind of draw on briefly. So this on the left is a map of the CTI program, which is the Conservation and Technical Assistance Initiative. And this was partially funded by the state and partially funded by NRCS. And the intention was that we would put planners throughout the state who could draft the conservation plans to help deliver Farm Bill programs. And so you'll see in FY21 where everywhere where there was a CTI, you see a substantial number of obligations from USDA in those counties and in those communities. So there is a direct connection between having a conservation planner locally and their ability to get farmers, landowners, urban producers enrolled in federal Farm Bill programming. And these are dollars that Michigan would otherwise lose out on, that would go to other states who have a more robust and stable conservation district system. So we'll see, maybe we can try the video if that'll work, but doesn't look like it will. So I'd be happy to forward those on to the committee though afterwards. So again, to touch on the Climate Smart Farm project just briefly, again, that's the $4.7 million that we were awarded through NRCS. And this is going to occur in the 4 southeast counties of Michigan, Wayne, Washtenaw, Lenawee, and Monroe counties. And what we'll be doing is we're going to be providing financial assistance to small-scale and underserved producers using practices like cover cropping, residue and tillage management, pasture and silvopasture establishment, feed management, forest stand improvement, and wetland restoration, and combustion system improvements. In addition, we're going to basically work with MDARD to create a pilot climate verification process that's adjacent to the existing MEEP program. So then farmers can then be verified environmentally through MEEP as well as through our climate verification, and then they can market their products as being climate smart and climate verified. And so with that, we're also going to be providing an overall account of just the impact of climate smart agriculture, and so you can get a better idea of quantifying, how much carbon actually is sequestered through practices like cover cropping and tillage management and other things. So we're hoping to start with that probably in June, based when the final negotiations are complete with NRCS, and we'll have more information to share once we get engaged with that work. So with that, we're happy to take any questions that any of the committee members may have.
Our first question is from Minority Vice Chair Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Mr. Mullinan and Mr. Miller. Glad to see Genesee County so well represented. My old district in the 48th, I've harvested corn with the 6I farm. And, of course, your treasurer, Nancy 6I, has bent my ear on the Conservation District. So as a former county commissioner, I know we had very robust planning commission for household hazardous. I don't remember the conservation districts getting credit. Are you involved in that program? And if you are, how are you going to get more credit for that?
So it varies per county, basically. Some have been able to secure grants for household waste management collection, but Genesee County in particular uses Keep Genesee County Beautiful, I think typically organizes the hazardous waste collection. So.
Next up, we have Representative Shannon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On this page here, I heard you say, being from Macomb County, I heard Macomb and dollars. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what I guess I could do to be more helpful in that area?
Well, so for starters, we need individuals and leaders who'd be interested in running for the District Conservation Board of Directors. I'd say that's one of the largest needs, is that in the past, and Jerry, maybe you can speak to some of the history there, but from my understanding, the board simply just decided to not remain engaged when funding was cut. So there's been an effort to rebuild it and reestablish it.
Yeah, if you could give me more information, that would be great on the history and what's happening now. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Jerry, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just to add that the district north of Macomb, Blue Water, has been providing some assistance to some of the landowners and farmers for practices, but as Dan said, the board, we need to formalize a board, and so across all the districts in Michigan, as well as all districts across the U.S. and territories, there are 5 elected officials, so, or 5 elected board members. So that's right now is the issue. Our colleagues at MDARD have been visiting with the local folks in both Blue Water and Macomb, and there's some effort underway, but it's not very robust at this point.
And Representative Pies.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm looking at the page that says our guiding philosophy, and it says decisions on conservation issues should be made at the local level by local people with technical assistance provided by government-affiliated organizations. So my thought was, what kind of decisions? It sounds from the way this is written that that's not currently the case, and I'm wondering if this has anything to do with base standards that possibly are already in place. I have no idea, but that you think that they should be changed so that there's more local control on that?
So the premise is that, again, all of our programming is voluntary and non-regulatory. So we don't implement standards and practices in terms of any regulatory capacity. We provide support and technical assistance. So say if someone is looking to put a seawall in their lakefront property, they can submit a plan to us, and we can provide some support and some suggestions as to how they can build that out to be, a better natural barrier to prevent soil erosion there. That's just one example. But the idea is, at least in terms of how we guide through by prioritizing how resources could be spent, by identifying where our largest natural resource concerns are at the local level. Because we're going to know which streams are there, we're going to know which streets or which farms are adjacent to those streams. We're going to understand, just from our understanding and familiarity with the geography and the communities themselves.
I actually had a question too. I was wondering, you had mentioned some community outreach events that you do. Can you elaborate on what some of those might be, and are they more regionally based, or what do those look like?
Jared, you want to?
Well, they would vary. So many districts will do multiple field days. They'll do multiple workshops on particular topics. In Kent Conservation District, we have a series of workshops on native plants, as an example, because we're a major urban area, so a lot of our constituents and people that work with the district obviously are interested in native plants. So a whole range of activities. Some districts will, and I can give the example, Allegan and Ottawa, for an example, have a joint field day every summer, and they share that between those 2 districts. And we can go across the state and give you lots of other examples. So some are district unique, others are multiple districts, and then obviously where we have, as we indicated, there are 75 districts, 83 counties. So as we go into the upper part of the lower and up into the UP, there are some districts that are multi-county as well.
And just to add to that, so a number of districts engage too in educational programming, both for community as well as students. So that can take the form of some folks even have an early pre-kindergarten program up in the Grand Traverse community. Some do nature walks, and some do stargazing events. It really just depends on that community and sort of the creativity of that district and their capacity to deliver on those programs. But there's a common theme of stewardship education and trying to get communities to better understand the importance of being good environmental stewards and to better manage our collective resources as communities.
Great, thank you very much. Does anyone have any further questions? All right, thank you both very much for your time and for the presentation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Shannon moves to excuse absent members. There being no objection, the motion prevailed by unanimous consent. And there being no further business before the committee will stand adjourned.